Welcome back to Under the Sheets with Tatiana Ashbourne and friends, brought to you by Dirty Talk. I'm Tatiana Ashbourne, and these are my friends. This is Sammy Sunshine, everybody!
Laugh about it.
Give it to me, baby.
Learn about it. Love it or hate it. Let's do it. Under the Sheets with Tatiana Ashbourne and friends. Coming up in this episode.
I've definitely joined the High Mile Club.
No. Stay tuned for more.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on my bed. I can't believe it.
I know, my goodness.
A TV phenomenon, basically.
gosh, wow.
Oh my goodness, you've done it all.
Oh, well, it feels like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. My age probably reflects it, but I haven't got wrinkles yet, which is great. So
I mean, you look amazing. Literally insane.
we can thank hair and makeup.
So you brought something from your bedroom?
I did. Well, did you know, there was something I wanted to bring, but I didn't have time to get it.
Okay.
My Care Bear, actually.
Okay, so explain more about what a Care Bear is.
Well, just like you introduced me, Sammy Sunshine, the name Sunshine actually comes from that Care Bear when I was a kid. It's the Care Bear, they all had different names.
Okay.
And this yellow Care Bear, which is actually my signal color, and you can probably see here I've got yellow pants. It actually represents who I am as a person as well.
Okay.
It's sunshine, you know.
Amazing.
I did want to bring it, but I forgot.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And so from that, that's literally what made Sammy Sunshine.
Yeah, it started from a very young age. So, long story short, when I was about 11 years old, I was taken away from my parents.
Okay.
So I went through the foster care system, and I was in an orphanage, if you like.
Okay.
And the Care Bear was the one item that I took from my home to keep me company. And weirdly enough, not having parental figures growing up, that Care Bear means so much to me. I actually travel. It's a fun fact. I travel all over the world with it.
Yeah.
It's always in my suitcase, and sometimes I even get my children say to me, "Dad, why are you bringing a teddy bear? This is so embarrassing." And I'm like, nobody needs to know. It's in the suitcase.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't have an authoritative parental figure in my life,
Okay.
and that Care Bear just represents loving people, spreading love, and that's why my name is Sammy Sunshine, because I bring a little bit of sunshine wherever I go.
Yeah. And so without having that parental figure in your life, how do you think that's created who Sammy Sunshine is?
Do you know, I'm proud that in 2022 we can say that people have evolved. You know, people are definitely more open to accepting others from cultures, sexuality, genders, and even gender dysmorphia in a way is no longer really a dysmorphia.
Yeah.
It's kind of just it's a thing. And I'm proud that maybe back in the day, I mean, like, there's people that are martyrs prior to me, but
Yeah.
I feel that the way that sex and sexuality has evolved, we were actually just talking about this earlier on about RuPaul. RuPaul is a perfect example to show that, it's okay to be a man that feels like a woman, or a woman that feels like a man, etc. And
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get to terms with all the different terminologies, if I'm honest.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So many.
So many. That's crazy. And so what makes you feel beautiful?
Well, for me, beauty is like this. I believe that human beings are like stained glass windows. If you have no light from within, you can't see the beauty from the outside.
Yes.
It's very deep.
That is very deep. I love it though. That's so good. And when have you felt most happy?
I'm happiest actually, funnily enough, when I'm at home
Okay.
in Scotland, and I'm sitting having a cup of tea, watching Downton Abbey with my Mama Moo. Yeah.
Ah, that's so good.
Yeah.
And so you're originally from Indonesia,
Correct.
and you then moved to Scotland. Is that how?
That's correct. So I was born in Indonesia. My
Yeah.
father was a missionary. He was
Okay.
Scottish by descent, and my mother was Dutch Indonesian.
Okay.
So grew up in Indonesia till I was 7, and then moved to the UK.
Amazing. And have you seen them since?
Unfortunately, I don't really have a relationship with my biological mother.
Okay.
Which, like it's sad, but it's one of those things, isn't it? But my adoptive family are very much the family that are there for me,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
around me. Unfortunately, my biological father passed away in 2020, and
Okay.
that was really sad,
Yeah.
because I had already just started to build up a relationship with him.
Mhm.
But I guess my whole life I've been estranged from family, per se.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I've always kind of been my own parent myself.
Definitely. And from your adopted parent, I don't know what they're
Adoptive parents.
parents.
Well,
Yeah, adoptive. That's the word.
Guardian parents.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it always an open conversation about who you are and about the world of sex, or not really?
Did you know? I think, well, like my mama Moo, she's definitely from a different generation,
Okay.
but she's honestly the kindest, nicest, most beautiful soul on the planet, and
Yeah.
she's so accepting of people. And I think just as a reflection of who she is as a person, I'm so proud that as somebody from the older generation is so open.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I mean, like I've spoken to her about different sexual activities, etc.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a line that you draw with your mom,
Yeah, I'm sure.
especially over a cup of tea. You
Yeah.
know, like it's a little bit too 18, 15. Was it 15, 18? It's not PG talk, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm guessing you have been up to a lot in the bedroom.
Well, yeah, I guess everyone's had nocturnal activities. I'm a lights out kind of person.
Really?
It's
Okay.
interesting, actually. I had this conversation just recently with friends of mine, and they were like, "Oh no, I like the light on. I like to see what I'm doing." I'm like, "No, I'm very much switch the light off. All these lumps and bumps, you don't need to see it."
Yeah. Yeah. And what happens when you then, like, if you're staying the night, you'll have to turn the lights on?
Wow.
Do you cover yourself up before?
Unfortunately, I don't have a makeup team to be able to
Yeah,
touch me
oh,
up
that's a good
in
point.
between. But I have been guilty of this, and I know it's on movies as well. Like
Okay.
I've woken up a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
just to kind of spruce up my hair, or like,
Yeah.
okay, just touch a little something up, and then sneak back into bed and just like,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
morning.
Oh, amazing.
This is what I look like,
Yeah, yeah.
As Beyonce says, I woke up like this.
So tell me about your first time.
Oh wow, woof. It's a bit too raunchy. I don't think I've ever actually spoken about my first time. Wow, I think my first time I must have been, actually, I kind of lost my virginity very late on in life.
Okay.
It's not something I've opened up to the public about, but yeah, no, I think with being in a relationship, I was married for 10 years plus.
Yes.
And of course, I don't regret that for 2 seconds, because I have, 2 beautiful biological children.
Yes.
But my first proper sexual encounter with a gentleman, it's actually when I was 30. It's only 5 years ago, and it was my first gay partnership that I had with my ex-partner, who I was with for a number of years, and yeah, it definitely opened my mind into the world of sex.
Yes, yeah. And now, are you on it like a car bonnet always?
On it like a car bonnet? I don't think I've ever done it on a car bonnet. I've definitely joined the High Mile Club.
No. Tell me about
It was
that.
very awkward. I kind of got my foot in the toilet pan, but anyway.
Oh, God.
It's another story for another time and another book. So.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I think once you've got the mojo going and you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
I'd say I'm an expert at the bed now. I don't even need lights. I know exactly what I'm doing, so.
And what is your thing?
I'm very sensual. I'm a very sensual person.
Okay.
Very touchy-feely.
Yeah.
I like to, like have that close connection with my partner, because I'm all about sensual touch. And I think this is a discussion I also had with 2 friends of mine who are both, in a lesbian partnership.
Yeah.
And women just understand what women want.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes all to do with touch. Whereas I think some guys, especially, the very masculine heterosexual guys, they're just like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and literally.
And it's like,
Very
thank you,
much
over. And men are assholes in that regard, because I just find that you know, once they've come, it's like that's it. Boom,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
out like a light, and it's like, hello, I've just serviced you. Like, hug me, do something.
Yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
doesn't necessarily. Yeah, I feel that sometimes they're quite selfish. Men are very
Yeah.
selfish in that regard.
And
Women can be
also,
too. Don't get me
oh yeah,
wrong. You know,
definitely. Yeah,
this is
yeah.
across the board, but
Yeah, and also I feel well when talking to men about it and why they don't wait for a woman to come or whatever, you know, they're all very much, well, it's hard work, it's tiring, and
oh, very much so.
afterwards you're, you know, knackered.
Well, it's good exercise, you know.
But yeah.
I don't get to the gym anytime soon. I'm just not, I'm doing a 1,500 calorie diet right now, so
Oh.
I think the more sex I have, the better it is for me.
Yeah, yeah. And having sex that late, when you then had sex, did you feel like new and reformed, or was it just I've done it, you know? Because obviously that's a long time to not have had. And also, what was the reason for not having it beforehand?
Well, this is something I'm very open as well. You know, like I'm super. There's no holds barred. Is it no bars hold?
No, no holds barred. That's right.
Okay, because the dyslexia sometimes hits in, especially when I'm not had my coffee. When I was younger, and this goes back touching on to, you know, and being a kid, is, you know, I was a victim of sexual abuse as a kid.
Okay.
And it's something that I fought for as well, you know, for a lot of kids, especially in Indonesia, because there's so much sex trafficking and there's so many horrible individuals out there that go for these holidays and abuse children. As a kid and a survivor of, you know, like the sexual abuse, like
Yeah.
I always saw sex as it wasn't a pleasant thing. It was associated with something that was quite horrible. And going through my teenage years, I found it very difficult to have any kind of intimacy with people.
Okay.
You know, I would hug friends, I would hug
Yeah,
people
yeah.
in general, and I was friendly and approachable. But when it came to having, you know, any kind of sexual relation, or I'd turn people away.
Yeah.
And I was sad because I think I just saw sex as a very uncomfortable. I don't know. I found it. It was just uncomfortable, and I associated sex as a bad thing. And it really was until my first partner, who shall not be named, he really was so patient with me because we were together for 6 months.
Wow.
And how a man could have resisted me for 6 months.
Yeah,
and, you know,
yeah.
we slept in the same bed together, you know, like, and we fondled and we kissed and all the rest of it, but there was never any penetration. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And he was so respectful, and he said to me, he said, so what is it going to do to take you to want to be with me? And I said, well, I want to feel safe and secure that you want to be with me.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so I told him, and I genuinely was joking. I said, I was like, I want roses on the bed. I want sensual music. I want candles. I want all of this.
Yeah.
And one night, to
That's
my
amazing.
complete sheer amazement, because he can't even cook, let alone, you know, do grocery shopping without my assistant or somebody helping him. The house was set in this really nice ambient romantic setting, and I thought, oh my God, right, okay, I better give it to him, you know. And it was really nice because he made me feel comfortable, and the fact that somebody waited that long showed to me that he cared, and it wasn't just some random person that he's trying to bed and then, you know, on to the next, wham bam, thank you ma'am. Because that's what the Tinder world and, you know, all of the grinders and all of them, and it's like, I feel that the dating world now, we're so disposable. It's like you're swiping left and right based on a physical appearance, but you don't know anything about somebody just because it lists their hobbies or it's got a quirk.
Yeah.
You could be saying no to somebody's that's really beautiful inside.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're kind of like Uber Eats now. It's like you order it, you eat it, and like, thanks, bye.
So true. But that's similar from what we were saying earlier, was that that when people read about you on the internet, and we were saying how it's not the true representation of who you are.
No.
And so have you had a situation where people have read things and think they know you, and you're a bit like, well, let's...
Yeah, I think with anything, especially, you would know as well, because I'm sure there's always, you're going to have positive and negative.
Definitely.
There's, and you know, like the positives, of course, you want more of that than the negatives. It's part and parcel of the entertainment world, and I think when you are out there, you're putting yourself to exposure, and quite rightly so as well. You know, people say, well, it's the same like paparazzi. If they take pictures of you, they're like, oh well, you know, you asked for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not necessarily. I feel that we, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, you can never do right. It's like you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
And when I first came into the industry, and I was obviously after Big Brother, it was very hurtful. You know,
Yeah.
like I got to the point where I had a phobia of picking up a newspaper because it mattered to me so much what other people thought.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful, I think, with age, that you just kind of let it go, and I just don't give a shit what anyone thinks. But you know, what people think versus what they see.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people that don't know me and have read something about me, when they meet me, they're like, "Oh my God, you're so nice," or you know, like, "You're nothing like what I expected."
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's just nice to be nice, and I don't really take too much notice, but
Yeah.
it's the same for anybody, you know.
Definitely.
And you know, we can touch on other reality shows as well. You know, Love Island being one of them.
Yeah.
You know, there's a misconception of people there, and unfortunately, to the demise of some poor individuals that you know have lost their lives through that as well. And
Yeah.
that's based on what they were so concerned what other people thought. And I just wish I could shake people and be like, you know what? Who cares what anybody thinks?
Yeah.
If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. They don't pay your bills.
And it's also when they've got that thought in their head that that someone thinks this, and then they start thinking, okay, I am not a nice person and I do this.
Exactly.
You can't shake it out of them, and it's so difficult to, you know, it's like when someone thinks that they don't look good for the day, and then you're trying to tell them, no, you look really good, but there's no way that that's going to come out of their head, you know, which is so hard.
Yeah.
And touching on Big Brother, so is that how it started, really? You came onto Big Brother as Samantha, which
very much
is
did, yeah.
like so different, you know, amazing. So what makes Samantha? Who is she?
Okay, so Samantha derives of a very confused individual as a kid, you know, like I think a lot of it comes back to abandonment issues as well. Interestingly enough, a lot of people said, how did you become Samantha? It's not like I just fell out of bed one day and woke up and thought, oh, geez, I want to be a woman.
Yeah.
It was very much a transition. And, you know, touching on makeup as well, makeup was such a big part of my growing up.
Yeah.
Because I used to associate people that wore makeup as being happy. And I think when I looked into my reality of life, you know, like I was abandoned from, you know, family. I was very much estranged from, you know, having friends, and, you know, being bullied at school especially made me feel very isolated.
Yeah.
And I used to look at people that wore makeup and I thought, wow, they look so happy. And I thought, maybe if I replicate what people are doing to their faces, that, you know, weirdly in my child brain, I thought, if I start wearing makeup, I'm going to be happy. So I stole, admittedly, I stole a foundation from my social worker, Sandra Thompson. And she was a Caucasian lady, very white. She had ivory beige, I'll never forget it, foundation. I smothered it all over my face. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm going to rock to school. I don't give a shit what anyone's going to say. And of course, like, you know, people called me Casper, the friendly gay ghost.
Oh
and,
my gosh.
you know, all the different
Yeah.
synonyms that kids just come up with at school. And for some reason, it gave me confidence. And then, you know, like eventually I kind of slowly learned, like, oh, okay, I need to blend. Oh, okay, I need to put blusher, or I need to do a whole multitude of things to kind of even out my face.
Yeah.
And without thinking, like over a progression of like 2 or 3 years, you know, I started growing my hair. Not that I had any intentions to become a female.
Yeah.
And it just happens that when I saw myself on the reflection of you know, a chemist, I remembered the security guard said, "Oh, this way, miss." And I was kind of taken aback, thinking, this person just said, "Miss, wait, you're incorrect. I'm a guy." In my mind, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And it was then that I was like, holy shit, I do look like a girl-ish.
Yeah.
And that was where Samantha was born. So people are like, so what, did you feel like a girl? Were you did you want to transition? What was it? It really kind of happened.
Yeah.
But I felt comfortable being there. It was kind of like my mask, if you like, to the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was where I learned how to be confident in myself. And, I suddenly found that people respected me. People were nice to me or took an interest in me, which previously being just this fat kid at school that nobody wanted to be friends with, I was a loser. I was suddenly like, the center of attention, or people were talking about me, not necessarily to me, but that was how that whole world led. And at the time I didn't really know sexuality wise who or what I was.
Yeah.
I just knew that from a young age I was more attracted to the male species over to the female. Like I'd look at a girl and be like, oh yeah, beautiful, nice shoes, or oh shit, nice teeth, and I would appreciate the
look. Yeah.
But I would never I wouldn't look at a guy in that way. Like I'd be like, oh, okay, I don't know why I'm feeling palpitations right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And did you feel like a woman? Was that something that do you think that that's what women feel like?
No, like I think it was an evolved, like I definitely see how women can sometimes be perceived as like sexual pedestals.
Yeah.
And I remembered going with a group of my girlfriends who were real girls on a night out, and we actually none of us had money.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, we all fucking look good, so let's just go out. And I remember telling the girls, I was like, girls, just put your wallets away, open your vagina wallets. And it literally, we got drinks all night.
No way.
So it was selling sex in some weird way, and that's definitely how women do it. And I'm sure you've interviewed people in the past that have worked in the sex trade.
Yes, yeah.
And it is, you sell sexuality, and it's flirtatiousness, and I enjoyed that person.
Yeah.
But then I would always retract because when it got too close, I was like, okay, anyway, really nice to meet you, bye-bye. Or I would always make sure to have, I used to go to like Claire's Accessories.
Yes, yeah.
And buy the cheapest ass ring before a night out, put it on my left finger and be like, sorry, I'm engaged, or sorry, I'm this, because thanks for all the drinks, but I can't come home with you. My husband's going to be angry, or my boyfriend's going to kill me. That was it was fun days.
And when you went on Big Brother, am I right in thinking you were 18, or is
That's correct, yes, yeah.
And so that's such a young age to get involved in that thing, and to come in as Samantha and everything, because that's a big statement to the world, like that they're first seeing you as Samantha,
I think at the time, Endemol and also the producers, they had obviously seen something in me. Now, just a disclaimer, I didn't really audition for the show.
Okay.
There was no interest. I never had an ambition to go on reality shows. It just kind of happened coincidentally, very accident. There was a number of factors that happened that led me to auditioning for the show, and it was completely by accident.
Okay, can I know how?
Yeah. So I had a friend, which is actually my manager. I used to work for a certain brand.
Yeah.
And we worked together, and she was desperate to audition for this reality show. And she said, listen, can you just keep me company to go, to audition? So we ended up going along with it. And there was a lot of things that had happened during that course of that day that led me to go and be with her.
Yeah.
That split-second decision between buying a pack of Tic Tacs or going to Greg's. And, because I subsequently had picked going to buy Tic Tacs at freaking Boots, this lady, because I knew the staff that worked at the local chemist.
Yeah.
And I was always very overly friendly with people, always saying, hi, everyone, hi. And one of the producers from Big Brother was actually in that store at the time.
Wow.
And had approached me and said, oh, excuse me, really interesting. Like, here's my card, blah, blah. And it was kind of like...
And were you Sammy or Samantha?
Samantha.
Okay.
So I kind of brushed it off, and this was on my lunch break. Now, later on, subsequently in that day, my manager was like, oh, can you just keep me company? I want to go and audition for the show.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I really can't be bothered. Really? You want me to go? So she said, I'll pay you half a day. I was like, done, sold.
Yeah.
the option of queuing up outside of work or serving customers. I was like, yeah, I'll tag along. So we were queuing up, and there was hundreds of people, and this guy was coming up giving people like red dot stickers, yellow stickers, purple, etc. So he put a red sticker dot on my manager, put a yellow one on me. And then he said, anyone that has a red sticker, he said, if you could, thank you so much for coming today, you can go home.
No way.
So I just looked at her, and she looked at me in complete anger. She's like,
yeah, I bet.
Give me that fucking yellow dot. And I'm like, okay, take it. So we swapped we swapped the stickers, and it was only as I left and I was proceeding to exit the queue. The guy that had been distributing the stickers said, hold on, where are you going? And I said, I'm just leaving. And he said, I gave you a yellow sticker. Why have you got a red sticker now? And I'm like, I lost it. And he said, well, get back in the queue. And he's like, where's that yellow sticker? Who did you give it to? And I'm like, oh, listen, I don't want to audition for this. It's my friend that wants it. So he literally marched me back to her, took the yellow sticker off her, put it back on me, put her the red, and escorted her out.
Oh my God.
And it was one of these like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh, she doesn't hate me now.
Yeah, of course. Who hates you?
It's like, love you, Anne-Marie. And yeah, so that had happened. Now, the audition process that day, as we were going through, and I was just getting fast forwarded. Now, the lady that I had met at the boot store, randomly was there.
It's crazy.
She took me off to the side to do like an audition piece, and she's like giving me papers to sign, and all the indemnity forms. Even going onto this show, you got to sign a lot of forms. And that was it. And she's like, wow, I met you today. And so I was like, she's like, so it looks like you're auditioning for my show. And I'm like, am I?
No.
I don't even know what show I'm doing. And she's
That's
like, well,
so
I
funny.
knew from the buzz of what people were talking about, but I had never watched an episode or series. And back when I had done Big Brother, it was still quite a new concept. Reality shows were very still new. I think it started with Simple Life, with Paris Hilton. I don't know, maybe the older generation guests today would know. Do you know who Paris Hilton is? Okay, and Nicole Richie, they had a show called The Simple Life. And they and the Osbournes, they were the ones that started the whole reality show thing. So and that was it. And thrusted, catapulted into the show, didn't really know what I was doing, and boom. Like I came out and like, why do people know me? Because you forget that there's cameras. I didn't have a game plan, FYI, because people didn't have game plans, and people thought, you go onto the show. Everyone's got a different reason why they went onto the show. But I can genuinely say, well, I had a free summer. I wasn't doing anything. That was that particularly interesting. And that was it.
Wow. And are you pleased you did that, or not? Really?
I think now, when in hindsight, if I could have told myself not to, I probably would have said don't.
Okay.
But I believe that what is for you does not go past you. So I needed to go on to that show to then evolve. The
stepping stones of
exactly. So I'm here sitting on your bed today. Doing this interview. 15, 16 years later, and this wouldn't have happened if I didn't buy a packet of Tic Tacs.
That's insane. Such a random story.
No commercial here. Are we getting sponsored by Tic Tacs?
Yeah, Tic Tacs. And so you mentioned that you were married for how long?
10 years.
10 years, okay. And you also said that it was a she.
Very much so, yeah.
Could you explain a bit more about
the
that?
shock of and amazement of many people.
Yes, I'm
like,
sure.
yeah, well, gay guys, we're a girl's best friend and a straight man's wingman, and that's very true, guys.
True, very true.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit more of a complicated story. So how do I shorten this into a Reader's Digest version? Basically, overseas in Indonesia, like it's we're a Muslim country, and we're very respectful of like marriage, and working in film and TV, especially, like I think it was very much, it was okay to be flamboyant on television. but in real life, and I think going over there as Samantha, after Big Brother, I'd moved to Indonesia,
Okay.
and I'd started, my television career in Indo.
Okay.
Being Samantha on TV, they're all about ratings, so it was definitely, I was a phenomenon because I was an enigma, and a lot of people hadn't really seen or heard of what is this he, she, what, who is this person? What are they trying to represent? It caused a lot of stir, and of course, with different religious sects as well, they were kind of disapproving towards the television station.
Okay.
And subsequently, they had said, like, we need to revamp your image and change your image.
Yeah.
I was given the option to kind of like go the straight way or go take the highway.
Yeah.
And I did. Listen, when I look at it now, I don't regret it because I did marry my friend, who essentially was my best friend.
Okay.
Who was very understanding and very accepting of who I was as a person. And I was grateful for the years of marriage.
Yeah.
And I think when you part in separate ways as well, it can be very difficult.
Yes.
But, to be with somebody for 10 years, I can safely say you know them very, very well.
Yeah.
But I'm very lucky to have, 2 amazing, beautiful children out of it, and I don't regret it. And I know that a lot of people, especially in the UK, because I've been away for such a long time, they're probably scratching their heads like, hold on a minute. He was like a guy, and then he was a girl in the show, and then he identifies as being gay, but then goes to Asia and then gets married and then has kids.
Yeah,
what the and it's true. It is very confusing, and nobody would believe me if I try to explain.
Yeah, but it's probably just as confusing to you as anyone else as well.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like life takes you in so many paths. It's like you make what your life is. They say that, fate, etc., etc., and I do believe in some regards, but I really believe that, sometimes you're not meant to be with the same person forever.
So true.
And just like, people have different flavors in relationships. For me, it's monogamy. I'm very much a monogamous type. I'm one-on-one. Others choose to have open relationships.
Yeah.
It's very interesting for me because I'm not good at sharing, especially food. I'm like Joey from Friends. It's like, don't touch my plate.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And so, with your relationship, that meant you lived with them, you did everything together, basically. And then, you then, have you divorced? Is that how it happened? So is that because you moved to the UK? Or,
No. So, I mean, like, so without speaking too much about legally stuff. So we obviously went in separate ways, and due to us departing, it's sometimes better to go quietly than make a big fuss.
Definitely. And that is, so does that mean that you won't be able to go back to your country because of religious reasons, because now you're departed? Or when you go back, are you still technically supposedly together?
Well, that's the thing. No, we're not.
Okay.
So we're officially, separated. I think for me, there's a point in your life that, you have to be true to yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
As much as you think that you can be that person for that other person, it doesn't quite work out that way.
Yeah.
And I think I would be lying to myself, and it ate away at me a lot, because I'm not getting any younger, and I certainly don't want to be 70 and suddenly like, oh, hey, I'm gay, by the way. Did you know? I mean, a blind monkey would know. Come on, let's be honest. And I think that was my way of like breaking free as well.
Yeah.
And it was hard, having to start again from zero.
I bet.
Being away from my kids, especially for a number of years, was really hard.
Yeah.
And pressing the reset button. But I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had in my life. And I'm grateful that I have kids that are now, getting bigger.
Yeah.
So I like being a young parent. It's always weird when I say dad, because I just identify as a parent because I have very maternal instincts.
Yeah.
I'm very motherly. And I would definitely say my ex-wife was more the dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, if my daughter, I always remembered, used to say, when somebody asks like, oh, what's your mommy like? Oh, mommy's naughty, mommy's bad. What's daddy like? Oh, daddy's the best daddy in the world. You know, and yeah. But anyway, hey, I'm single, so if anybody wants me, here's the number.
And so, obviously, being Samantha and then going back to Sammy, how did that process go? Because you were close to fully transitioning to Samantha, am I correct?
Yeah, there was definitely a point in time, but I'm so grateful that I didn't.
Okay.
There's a lot of individuals that I've had the honor of getting to know over the years, you know, that have transitioned. And for different people, they have different, you know, there's different reasonings to why they wanted to transition. And I've met a few as well that have regretted it. I feel that maybe I was too enclosed and too comfortable being Samantha that I actually forgot what it was. You know, this was like an identity I was portraying to the world, but really deep down inside, I was just still that hurt little kid boy that was trapped in this image that I was, you know, trying to portray because I was so desperately seeking approval and wanting to be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was the question?
I was too involved in what you're saying.
I'm so sorry.
Forgotten now.
I'm lost.
About the transition stage between the two.
Okay, the transitioning. Yeah. At the time, doctors were so the process actually for transitioning was so fast.
Okay.
And I just remember being so close to it.
Yeah.
That I kind of freaked out.
Much. Yeah.
And luckily now I think the transition is there's more of a arduous process that you have to go through. You have to see psychologists and, you know, go through various different shrinks, if you like, you know, before that's made available to people. I'm not sure how it works here in the UK and NHS now, but I know that overseas, you know, like it's definitely a fast forward. Yeah. You know, like whatever you want done, we can do it as long as you pay.
Yeah, and your mental health situation, did it suffer thinking about all these things and knowing what other people would think and everything else?
Did you know, I think in my earlier years, I think from the age of like 15 till mid 1920s, I was definitely still very confused. Yeah. In regards to my mental health as well. You know, it definitely impacted on a lot of things, but I'm very grateful that I kind of did my research myself, you know, and I made that decision myself. Nobody pushed me to not do it. And then, of course, with the film and TV bunch as well, they kind of just pushed me over the edge a little bit and said, listen, we have to change your image. And I was kind of refusing to let go of Samantha because it was like clutch for so many years. Yeah,
it's a big thing for years.
And I just remember getting my hair cut and I was in tears because it was like my crown, you know, and it's true, like hair can be cut, makeup can be washed off, nails can be soaked off, and there was nothing permanent about me. So when people would say, so what do you identify as? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of unisex. I'm like a unicorn. I don't know. Yeah. It's like I am and can be whatever anybody wants me to be. Yeah. And I feel that it's sad that people always have to put, you know, humans, we need to put everything into boxes and labels. Yeah. Why can't you just be Sammy, or why can't you just be Tatiana? Yeah. Or, you know, like, it's sad that we have to label everything.
And how has the LGBTQ plus community changed from when you were, you know, when you were younger to now?
Well, back then it was just LGBT.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And there was definitely a lot of transphobia. And I got that very much so in the house and Big Brother as well. There was a lot of transphobia and a lot of things were cut out, you know, but I think that if any of that was aired to this day, and I think there were some clippets and snippets, and, you know, it was called Man Beasts by an individual. It was called a multitude of things like, how do you actually fit? How do you fit into this world? You know, you're an it, you're a thing. I remember a certain individual in my house saying these things. Yeah. You wouldn't get away with that now. Yeah. And I'm kind of grateful for being that person on that show. Because when I came out of it, there were so many letters that I received from different individuals saying, thank you for going into that show, because now people are looking at me thinking, oh, you're like that Sam from Big Brother.
Yeah.
And it kind of normalized for some individuals.
Yeah.
Being different was okay.
And definitely seeing, I'm sure for a lot of people, seeing you being so open when you're on Big Brother, like that would have helped so many people, you know, seeing that you can actually.
I think the producers were pissed off at me, to be honest, because I think they wanted me to kind of like maybe play on the fact that maybe I was more of a female and not to reveal that I was, you know, cross-dresser, tranny, whatever it was that I was labeled as. Because I think they wanted to see, you know, the reactions maybe from the straight men in the house.
Yeah.
When upon finding out that I wasn't really a real girl. But I think I was in the house for less than 5 minutes and I was like, oh, I'm just a tranny, I suppose. And I just remember saying that line and it haunts me to this day. I'm like, I could, you know, the producers after the show, they said the minute I said that, they're like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's like, come on, you could have just kept it going for just a little bit longer. But I think sometimes transparency is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I put it out there, even though they'd labeled me tartan tranny. I was transvestite, transgender, and even then I didn't really know what all of those meanings meant. Because I was just Sam that wore makeup and presented myself as a female. And people would be uncomfortable because they're like, he, she, like, how do you want? And I was like, listen, if I'm presenting myself and look like a girl, refer to me as what you see. So if it makes you comfortable to call me he, call me he.
Okay.
And it was the same with the toilet situation.
Yeah.
In one of my first office jobs, they actually took the disabled sign off and then put Sam's toilet. And I asked HR to do that because I didn't want to go to the girls' toilet and offend the girls. Yeah. Because there's always bound to be somebody that's upset. Yeah. And I didn't want to go to the guys' toilet because number one, they'd maybe be scared for their lives that I'm, you know, trying to eat their dick or something. I don't know what this concept was. It was, so I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to be in my own little world. I'll go and use the disabled toilet and, you know, I'll be dysfunctional by myself and nobody's going to get offended. And that was how I was for many years.
And what age did you start realizing that this was who you were?
I'd probably say about 12 or 13.
Okay. So pretty early on.
Yeah.
I suppose. And was it a thing that you had to come out? Was it a thing that you discussed, or was it just obvious?
Well, I didn't really have anyone to discuss it with, to be honest. It was just me, myself, and I, you know, I did it. It was a transition. It wasn't, as I said to you, that I fell out of bed one day and was like, hey, I want to be a girl. It was that evolution from makeup, discovery of what it was to be female, and you know, clothing and colors. And I remember walking into New Look, again, another sponsor, and I bought a Hello Kitty. That was my first ever Samantha t-shirt. It was a pink Hello Kitty thing, and I felt so nervous. I was literally like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And it was like 10 pounds or something. And I remember just going into public toilet and putting this pink Hello Kitty top on. And I bought this flimsy little bag, and I felt so empowered, but at the same time, what the fuck am I doing? And yet I just held my head up high, and I was like, I don't care. You know, if I was to meet myself back then, I would have just been like, wow, I had some gumption. I really didn't care what anybody thought. And I think people need to be like that. Just be yourself and don't care what other people have to say.
And because you didn't have a parental figure when you grew up, what parent did you hope to be for your children?
I didn't really think at that time that I was ever going to be a parent, full stop, you know?
But when you knew that you were going to be a parent?
Well, I mean, that in itself was one of the strangest feelings. It's like when I went to go and see my daughter, you know, like, it was such a beautiful thing, but at the same time, I felt like I was just visiting a friend at the hospital and passing a flower. I was like, oh, cute baby. Oh my God, the baby looks like me. Luckily, she's so much more prettier. And I don't know, like, I just know that with the parental, the maternal instincts that I have, you know, I loved getting involved, and I was more than happy to, you know, change a diaper and do all of those things. And yeah, it just changed. It was like having a piece of my heart walking outside of my body. Yeah. That's how I would describe having a kid. And suddenly the focus was no longer on me. Yeah. It was what can I do to make sure that I nurture this child to ensure that in the future she's going to be an amazing human.
Yeah.
And I can safely say that I'm very proud of all my children, and they are amazing, very open-minded girls. All girls, by the way, no boys, luckily. Because thank God Dad's got a bit of experience, you know, hair, makeup, nails, all of that. Gay guy's a girl's best friend. And I'm really proud of what I've done with my kids. I'm
as
so
you
proud
should
of
be.
that. Yeah. Just as your dad will be, well, your mom equally proud of you.
And who do you look up to the most?
Oh, there's a few people actually I really, really look up to. I'd have to say three individuals.
Okay.
So my social worker actually, growing up, Sandra, she has played such a big part in my life.
I bet, yeah.
Not only, are you okay? Are you
Yeah,
comfortable?
no, I'm all good. I'm just
I'm
shifting.
getting too comfy. I know. Longest interview ever.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no, she really nurtured me, and she made me believe that anything was possible.
Yeah.
And that I could be anything in this world, and she just supported me and made me really believe it when I felt like I couldn't. And she's very much in my life to this day, you know, like we talk like every week.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like an auntie now, and she's still ever as glamorous as she was before. And like I guess my later on in life guardian parents, I like my mommy Moo, who we have just completed Downton Abbey.
Lovely,
6 seasons, and we're so gutted. We went off to go watch the movie recently.
Is it good?
Oh, it's amazing.
Really? Okay.
I
need to go with my mum because we watched that too.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm not going to spoil it for you then, or anybody else that's watching this. But no, my guardian mom.
Yeah.
I call her Mama Moo, or Mommy Moo. She is honestly one of the most selfless individuals I've ever met.
Yeah. So
open-minded, caring, loving, giving, just kind, and she really is a reflection of who I want to be as a person.
Yeah.
And my third person, actually, I don't know if you can look up to this. Like I look up to different individuals in the world. It's just people in general that have gone out there and done something to make the world a better place.
Definitely.
And I think we live in such a selfish world that people forget to be kind. And with COVID and everything that's happened, it's really opened up the importance of just being kind to people.
Yes, yeah.
And that's it. Just be nice to people, be kind, and it doesn't cost a thing to be courteous. You know?
Well, we're going to go to audience questions now.
Oh my gosh.
You can be prepared to be on the firing line.
Oh, trust me, I'm always in the firing line.
Right, let's see what we've got. Okay.
The nail file moment.
Right, you say that you were married and had children.
Correct.
Does that mean that you were straight before you came out? What changed your mind about your sexuality, and how did the heterosexual sex compare to gay sex?
Interesting. No, I've always identified as being gay. I've always identified as being gay, but then again, I think you can fall in love with a person for their being, not necessarily what gender, you know, whether they have a vagina or a penis or whatever, you know. I think you just fall in love with the person and their being. So I don't know. Like, yes, of course, in the scale of, you know, like men versus women, I'm sorry, but a guy's, you know, like that's where my sexual attraction goes to.
Yeah.
Never has been for the women, but you can fall in love with people.
Yeah. Okay. And can you remember the first time someone recognised you from TV?
The day after Big Brother.
Really? That must have felt crazy.
Do you know actually who it was? It was, it's probably because you're too young. There was a band called Boyzone. Does anybody in the older Boyzone? So there was a guy called Stephen Gately, and I was walking down Bond Street with my bodyguard. I know how it sounds so, because when you come out of the show, they give you chaperones, you know, to kind of like transition you into this new weird life of fame. And I was in Bond Street, never been you know, like I could never afford to go into a store in Bond Street prior.
Yeah.
And Stephen Gately was walking with his boyfriend, who I think was Dutch, if I'm not mistaken. And he came up to me and he said, I loved you in Big Brother. Gave me the biggest hug. And I was a big fan of Boyzone.
Yeah.
And I just remember like, oh, thank you so much. Can you get me Ronan Keaton's autograph? And I think he just chuckled. And my assistant that was with me chaperoning me was like, oh my God, I can't believe you said to Stephen Gately you wanted Ronan Keating's signature. And I was like, yeah. That was the first person that genuinely recognized me, and that was weird. I was like, how does this famous person know me? What the hell?
Wow.
That was cool.
Oh, and it must probably gets better and better now as well, surely.
Listen, there's over the course of my career, especially in Indonesia, because my English language skills, every time we had like, you know, big celebrities coming over to Indonesia and, you know, like promoting movies or promoting music, naturally they would always kind of push me into that direction to do the interviews because I spoke English well. So, you know, I represented MTV Indonesia. There was various different TV channels and movie things. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of, you know, very, very famous people internationally. And it's funny when you meet them and you see them in real life, half the time you're just like, oh, they were nice, or you know, you have again an opinion or a stereotype in your mind of what you think a person's going to be like. But when you meet them, that's completely out the window. So I've met a lot of very interesting individuals.
As Samantha, you must have been incredibly desirable to men and women. Did you date at that time, and how did you manage to keep your virginity for so long?
Right. Well, there were stories back in the day that I was dating an Arsenal football player, and that was a lot of hearsay. I can't deny or confirm that for legal reasons, but I think you can make your own assumptions on that. I think in regards to my sexual prowess, okay, for you, what is sex? Is sex penetration, or is it just being sexual with somebody? Like, is kissing classed as sex?
I believe that sex is what anybody makes it to be. However, for me personally, I think it's penetrative.
Okay, so in that case, I probably didn't have sex then, being in the Samantha years. I was desirable prior to Big Brother. But it's usually drunk men falling out of a pub, and I'm like trying to run for the train, you know.
But why didn't you have penetrative sex?
I think because I was actually quite innocent then. You know, like I had never been exposed to porn or any of these kind of things until later on in life. And you know, especially when you live in a very you know, religious country, especially you don't have access to those things unless you have VPN. And I very, very innocent with that whole sexual world.
There's a question here, obviously, whatever you feel comfortable with, you don't have to reply. But it says, you mentioned that you were abused as a child.
Correct.
How old were you, and was it one specific person, or did it occur more than once?
It was one specific person, but I think when you're shy, when you're a kid, like, you know, nobody deserves that. And for years, I think there was a part of me that blamed myself. I thought, oh, maybe was it my fault? And that individual, unfortunately, you know, like, ruined not just my life, but as a kid, you know, like I feel very empowered now that I can talk about these things. You know, the fact that I'm 35 and I'm standing here to kind of tell the tale shows that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can do something incredible. And that's why I choose to help other people. And I was very grateful because we have the orphanage in Indonesia. So 136 kids.
Wow.
So, you know, 30% of my income at the time from film and TV went directly to support those kids.
That's incredible.
And that's probably one of my best achievements, apart from my kids, because they're my number one.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And let me choose one. What's the best sex you've ever had, and is there anything that you'd like to try in the bedroom that you have been scared to try up to now?
Oh my goodness, that's okay. Wait, can you repeat the last bit again?
Okay. And is there anything you'd like to try in the bedroom that you have been scared to try up to now?
Brad Pitt, here's my number. Brad would be like, he'll be scared of me now. If I meet him at the Oscars or something, he'll be like, keep away from him.
Yeah.
No, I've actually always really fancied George Clooney and Brad Pitt. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of Ocean's 11 and that whole. Have you watched the Oceans?
Yeah, I've snippets.
I fell in love with George Clooney from ER.
Okay.
I don't know. It's maybe the thought of having a man that was a doctor and knew what he was doing, and I don't know. He's just ageless. I'm sure even at 80, like one of my favorite actors is actually Cary Grant.
Okay, yeah.
And he kind of reminds me of Cary Grant. So I guess it's kind of like maybe my sex idol.
Yeah. And are you looking for a partner in the same line of work as you? Or are you pretty much open to anything?
Do you know?
Do you want to disconnect yourself from that?
For me, it doesn't really bother me because as long as they're a good person, I'm looking for somebody that wants to be monogamous with me. But I feel like, this whole disposable dating world that we're in now, it's so hard to find somebody that genuinely wants to settle down.
Yeah.
I want to build a home and curate a home and a loving environment, and even if that's the postman or the binman, I'm not what's the name for being job racist? What's that?
Oh, what is it? Jobbist. Yeah, that is true. Jobbist.
That means something else in Scotland, actually.
Oh no.
Jobbist. I don't know if you've heard the term jobby before.
As in a poo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That is it.
So no. I'm not a jobbist. They could be from any walk of life, culture.
Yeah.
I do have an age limit though.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Older, younger?
No, I think it's okay to go 10 years below.
Yeah.
And 10 years above. I try to stay within that realm.
I think that's good.
I think that's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what about George
Oh,
Clooney?
he's the exception to the rule.
And you actually, I don't know whether you meant to miss out the question I asked, but what's the best sex you've ever had?
Oh, I see, I avoided that one.
Yeah, exactly. You can come back to that.
Oh my goodness, that's for me to know and you to find out in my next book, people.
Yes, a massive plug. Yeah, you have a book out, which is insane.
Oh gosh, yeah.
A new one coming, hopefully.
Well, I think with the way that my life is currently going just now, there's, it's like a never-ending chapter. My first book, Samuel, Samantha, and Me, actually, I didn't really want to write the book, and I was approached by so many different companies over the course of like 5-6 years, and actually the story of how that book came around is so interesting. So I was actually based in Australia at the time.
Yeah.
Even though I was working to and from Indonesia in the film industry, and I had a number of different publishers approach me, and I just kept saying no. And this one lady, Rita, her name is, and she knows who she is, worked for this production company. So she actually flew out to Australia, tracked me down, and literally cornered me with a contract and was like, I'm not allowed to go back to Indonesia. They said I'm going to be fired if I don't get your signature. Would you please just let us write this book?
No way.
And I have such apathy for people, and I'm very empathetic, and I just felt sorry for this little lady that was like, oh my God, you've been sent all this way to see me just for a signature. And we went for coffee. I didn't sign straight away. You have to have compos mentis. I discussed it with, my then wife.
Yeah.
And she was the one that kind of closed me and said, well, why not?
Yeah. And good decision?
I'm grateful that I did it, because it means that when I'm older and for my youngest
something to look. Yeah.
a kid, she can read my book and then be like, oh wow, that's Dad's life.
Yeah.
Because I think I was so sick and tired of other people portraying me to be something that I wasn't, or misconfusing gender terms and this and that, the next thing, and I kind of just needed to kind of put that all out. And by having a book, it's in my own words, essentially, even though we had ghostwriters that followed me for like a good course of 6 months or so.
Wow, okay.
And it was interesting, actually, because there were so many points in my life that I totally forgot. Because you just get on with life. You become so, it's like, what's the word? competent. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Complacent.
Yeah.
You become so complacent with your life that you actually forget all the different achievements
Yeah,
that you did.
yeah.
So it's like every chapter of my book, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I totally forgot about this.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like breaking down all of the years. And even
Yeah.
now, when I look back at it, that book was then made into what was supposed to be like a telly movie, which then ended up being released in the cinema. And it's so awkward, like sitting there watching something about you and realizing, holy shit, it's true. And I've had people that don't know my story.
Yeah.
And especially in the UK, people don't really know me here anymore. Because number one, I don't look like anything I did back in the day.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, your life is like a book. And I'm like, yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, it's like a movie. I'm like, yeah, that's happened too. And they're like, really? It's like, been there, done that, wore the t-shirt.
Yeah. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And one last question before we have to finish. What's some advice that you would give to anyone that's about to have sex, thinking about sex, going through similar things to what you've been through?
I'm going to take the parental approach here because my kids will probably be listening to this.
Yes.
I think always make sure that you're in a safe place. You know, you're in a safe environment, you know, that whoever it is that you're interacting with, whether it be 1 or 10 people, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
And be safe about it, you know, wear protection, and as long as you're having safe sex, and you're enjoying it, and you're not being forced into something that you're not wanting to do,
Yeah.
then go for it.
Amazing. I've got you a gift for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh. Oh, is this my £2 million check? Because can we cut this just in case my accountant finds out about this? It's a secret, right?
So I have actually got you.
Wait. It is George Clooney in a box.
Oh no.
Is even better. Is it a vibrator shaped like George Clooney's penis?
Unfortunately, you've got a bell. You ring for sex. There we go. Thank you so much. It's been Sammy Sunshine, everyone.
That's too loud.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that was so much fun.
If you would like to be a part of the show, please check out our website at www.dirtytalkofficial.com. We welcome all sexualities regardless of your sexual experience. If you would like to be an audience member only, please get in touch the same way. Like and subscribe on all social media platforms.